Good afternoon. I'm Rowan from Innovation House, and we're having a chat with Christine Doan, who's a bit of a leader as an investor in this Ginn Road property that we're talking about in Malanda. Good afternoon, Christine.
Hi, Rowan. Glad to catch up.
Always good to have a chat. Can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in the Ginn Road project? Because I've introduced you as an investor, but perhaps you're a bit more than just that.
You know, it's an interesting thing because this project, we've been working on this since, I think it's May last year.
Yep.
But this is from my point of view, final iteration of a project that basically has been in the back of my mind since I was 17.
Wow.
And I'm about to turn 73, so that's a long time. And of course, there have been endless iterations. And at this point, we've got this, we've had a change in the way that we're approaching Ginn Road. And I don't need to tell that story at this point, but what it's done is made me start to reevaluate all the different roles I might have in the Ginn Road property. And I think what I'd like to do is just say, I don't really know 100% what those are, but I know that I want to be an investor and I want to be involved in co-creating, in a general sense, the community that might arise there, the small community or the small household, whatever you want to call it. And I just can't escape the feeling that anybody who's going to be attracted to the Ginn Road property, regardless of design, regardless of numbers of people in the particular household, whether it might be 3 or 5 or maybe more than that, it's very unlikely to be anyone except people who have a feeling of wanting to be close to nature, but also wanting to be close to a close-knit community. Because of course, from that property, you can walk or ride your bike to the town of Malanda. And my observation after 50 years on the tableland is that if you want to be part of a close-knit community on this side of the tablelands, go to Malanda, don't go to Atherton. Malanda is really the cohesive community.
Yes.
So if I can't imagine that people will be interested in this particular location and this particular scheme if they're not nature-loving, small community-loving people. And look, that's as far as I can get with setting in stone what I think is going to be wanted. Certainly, I feel like I fit in that club, nature-loving and small community-loving. And then the question becomes, all right, if you and Darren are helping us to get this whole project up and running, that is to say, you're very clever about building materials, about design, about the building industry. You've got endless experience with that, but you've also been researching how different forms of ownership can lead to the result, a better result than we're getting out of our housing market today. I think the other thing that you've really, really hammered and that I'm so appreciative of is that if you're going to pull together a small group of people who haven't got necessarily a long history, like a family, that you really, especially with people my age, boy, we got a lot of bad habits and old habits that might need to be a little flexibilized.
Yes.
That you really need to find ways of making agreements. And I think that what I want to urge everybody from the beginning is not to be utopian about this idea of forming agreements and forming a household, whether it's for affordability, whether it's for appreciating nature, whether it's for, say, a spiritual direction, whether it's for aging in place, whatever the purpose of your little group is. The most important thing to all of us, I think, is to be really harshly realistic about how difficult it's going to be to pull a group of potential strangers together and help them to make agreements that will last long enough to be incorporated into a new flexible set of agreements, if you see what I'm saying, because the agreements have to be flexible enough to keep
Yeah.
evolving the way this project has evolved.
Yep.
And yet they have to be clear enough that you start with a set of clear guidelines.